Welcome to the discussion on receivable financing. At the end of this module, we will be able to identify the sources of financing through receivables, learn the accounting for pledge, assignment, and factoring, understand the classification and presentation of pledge, assigned, and factored accounts receivable. Receivable financing is the capability to raise money out of its receivable. The financing of receivable occurs when an entity experiences financial difficulties due to business decline. Because of weak financial condition, the receivables of an entity are used in payments of its obligation or liability. So what is the concept of receivable financing? So ang sinasabi lang dito, the companies face challenges in the operations, especially yung mga tight cash position. So, there are times na yung mga receivables natin will not be collected on time. Merong mga conditions existing in the business environment that will trigger the delay in the collection of the receivables, that will entail challenges and struggles in the liquidity of a business. So, ang sinasabi lang under receivable financing is pwedeng gamitin itong mga asset account such as receivables para maka-generate ng cash, especially kapag ikaw ay in a very tight cash position. Because the logic ay kapag hindi ka nakakakolekta ng mga receivables mo from your customers, uh, ikaw mismo bilang entity ay meron ka ring mga liability. So kahit na ikaw ay hindi nakakakolekta ng iyong receivable account, meron kang obligation to pay yung mga liability mo naman as an entity. So because of the delay in the collection of the receivables, mahihirapan kang bayaran ang iyong mga liability. And merong effect kasi kapag hindi mo nabayaran ng iyong mga liability accounts on time, ay pwedeng maapektuhan ng iyong credit standing in the business and financial community. So, one option is to have your receivables be financed by other financial entities. So parang ibinebenta mo or ginagawa mong security itong receivable para maka-generate ka ng cash na in turn ay gagamitin mo to pay for your liabilities. So there are common forms in financing in receivable financing or using your receivables to generate cash. One is to pledge your accounts receivable. Next is to assign your accounts receivable. Next, to factor your receivables and then to discount your notes receivable. So, isa-isahin lang natin itong mga items na ito. The pledging of accounts receivable is a form of receivable financing in which an entity uses or pledges accounts receivable as collateral to secure the payment of the loan. The collection of the pledge account is normally done by the borrower but may be required to turn over the collection to the bank. The recognition of the loan is done by debiting the cash and discount on note payable if the loan is discounted and crediting the note payable. So what is the concept of pledging of accounts receivable? Ang sinasabi lang dito, 'di ba, when I don't know if you have encountered the term pledge in your business law, pero kapag pledge kasi uh, parang when the term pledge, you use this asset to be able to generate cash. Kumbaga, parang pinrenda itong accounts receivable mo para makakuha ka ng cash in a financial entity or a bank. So, pledging is general. Ang sinasabing pledging, pag sinabing pledging of accounts receivable, this is general. Bakit? Look at the illustration. Sabi dyan, on July 1, Lopez borrowed 1,500,000 from a bank and issued promissory note for the loan. The loan is discounted at 10% and it matures in 1 year. The company pledges accounts receivable amounting to 2 million as a collateral for the loan. So, ang sinasabi dito, pinledge niya yung 2 million of its accounts receivable bilang collateral for the loan. So, this is pledging. This is general because hindi naka-specify kung kaninong receivable ba ang pinledge mo. Basta ang sinabi mo lang dyan ay pinledge mo yung amount na 2 million ng accounts receivable mo as collateral for your loan. So, general siya. Hindi natin ma-identify kung kaninong receivable account ba yung ginamit mo kasi pwedeng receivable from ABC company or receivable from Juan de la Cruz or receivable from for Maria Reyes. So so ang pledging is general. So, since this pledging is general, how do you recognize daw yung pledging? Ang sabi dito, there is no entry in the pledging of account receivable. So, yung mismong pag-pledge mo, this is not recognized as a journal entry, but this is included as a note to financial statement. So, kapag nag-prepare ng financial statement, naka-note lang doon sa baba, and the portion of the notes to the financial statements na yung receivable ng ganitong amount na 2 million has been pledged to the BDO bank. Kumaga ganon. Ganon ang sistema under the pledging of accounts receivable. Kaya nga pansinin mo, ang entry niya lang dyan is debit cash 1,350,000, debit discount on notes payable 150, and credit note payable 1,500,000. So there is no entry in the pledging of accounts receivable because it is included as a note to the financial statement. Now let's proceed to um, the assignment of the accounts receivable. So the assignment of accounts receivable is a more formal type of pledging of accounts receivable wherein the borrower, or more properly called as the assignor, as transfers the rights in some account receivable to a lender, which is called the assignee, as collateral security for the loan. So kapag tingnan natin, assignment is more formal and assignment is more specific. Bakit more specific? Dahil sinasabi mo na dito kung anong accounts receivable ang ina-assign mo sa iyong assignee. Assignment is specific for the reason that it assigns specific AR as collateral for the loan. The assignment is recorded by debiting accounts receivable assigned and crediting accounts receivable. So under assignment, klaro na kung kaninong accounts receivable ang ina-assign mo sa iyong assignee. Okay, there are two classifications under the assignment of accounts receivable, yung tinatawag na notification and non-notification basis. So kapag ano bang ibig sabihin ng notification? We know that the word notify, ibig sabihin, nino-notify mo lang yung may-ari nung receivable na yon, yung may utang sa iyo, na yung kanyang receivable o kayang pagkakautang ay inassign mo na sa particular financial entity or bank. Kaya pansinin mo yung comparison, the customers under notification basis, notified na ang yung account holders. The customers are notified that the account were assigned. Whereas, under non-notification basis, the customers are not aware of the assignment of the account. So what is the effect kapag ni-notify at hindi ni-notify under the assignment of accounts receivable? Since under notification basis, dahil ni-notify mo na sila na yung kanilang accounts receivable ay naka-assign na into a particular bank or financial entity, the collections will go directly to the assignee. In this case, yung assignee na tinatawag dyan, yan yung bangko or yung financial entity na pinag-assignan mo na noong iyong accounts receivable. Under non-notification basis, dahil naman hindi sila aware na na-assign na pala ang kanilang payable, ay the obligation to collect is still in the assignor. Sino yung assignor? Ikaw, yung nag-assign ng receivable. Ikaw na nangutang dun sa bangko. Ikaw pa rin ang may obligasyong kolektahin yung mga payments ng iyong receivable accounts. Anong gagawin mo ngayon? You will remit the collections to the bank or the financial entity later. So there are implications on the recognition of the journal entries on the in the recording of these transactions. So mahalaga na ma-identify mo at the very first instance kung ito ba ay under notification or non-notification basis. So let us illustrate. Under the notification basis, for example, the transactions for January and February. So pakibasa mo ito. January 1, the coffee company assigned 2 million of its AR to a bank. The bank loans 85% minus bank charge of 5% on gross amount of AR assigned. The company signed a promissory note with 2% interest of the unpaid loan balance per month. So how do we recognize this? So ikaw si coffee company, ah, tandaan mo, notification basis ito. Under notification basis, pag notification basis, aware na yung nangutang sa'yo na ang kanilang pagbabayad ay doon na kay assignee, doon sa bangko na. So how do you recognize the entry first? One, you debit accounts receivable assigned and then credit accounts receivable. So tina-transfer mo lang dating accounts receivable, ngayon inassign na siya for a more clear recognition of the financial statements. So naka-assign na yung 2 million. Next, paano natin i-recognize itong the bank loans 85%? Kasi 'di ba, inassign mo siya, binigay mo na siya doon sa bangko para makakuha ka ng cash doon sa bangko. Eh, ang sabi, 85% lang daw ang binibigay ni bank. Then, meron pa siyang 5% na bank charge based on the gross amount na 2 million. Then, mag-i-issue ka daw ng note, payable, ng promissory note para doon sa loan balance. Tapos may 2% interest pa yon every month. So how do we recognize this? Oh, sorry. Okay, how do we recognize this entry on January 1? To record the loan. Okay. Okay. Ang sabi kanina, 85% lang ang pwedeng ipa-loan ni bank sa'yo. Magkano ang inassign mo? 2 million. So, 2 million times 85% is 1,700,000. So, that is your liability to the bank. So, you credit, note payable bank, 1,700,000. Masabi, meron daw service charge na 5% based on the gross amount of the accounts receivable assigned. So, 2 million times 5%, that is 100,000. So, magkano na lang ang matatanggap mo base doon sa accounts receivable na inassign mo na 2 million, 1,600,000 na lang. 1,700,000 minus 100,000 is 1,600,000. So, yan na lang ang natanggap mo doon sa assignment. So, meron ka ngayong cash na 1,600,000 na pwede mong gamitin naman sa pagbabayad ng mga liability account mo na hindi mo mabayaran dahil nagkaroon ng problema sa collection ng iyong accounts receivable. Okay, now let's proceed to January 31. The company received notice from the bank. 'Di ba? Naka-receive ng notice si company from the bank that 1 million of the assigned account were collected. So, 'di ba under the notification basis, sino na ang nagkokolekta? Si bangko na. Kasi nga notified na ang mga accounts receivable whole accounts na ang pagbabayad nila ay doon na kay bank or doon sa financial entity or doon sa assignee ng kanilang mga receivable account. So, may nagbayad na daw ng 1 million at merong 2% discount na ibinigay yung bangko for that. The company made the payment of the interest due. Magkano interest due? Sabi kanina, 2%. Okay. Doon muna tayo sa collection ni bank. So, ni-notify ka ni bank na may nagbayad na 1 million. So, anong gagawin mo? Since naka-set up yan as accounts receivable assigned, you deduct it. So, you credit accounts receivable assigned 1 million. So, binawasan mo na ang iyong accounts receivable assigned na 1 million. So, may discount daw na 2%. So, debit sales discount, 20,000. That is 1 million times 2%. Okay. Dahil na-receive na yan ni bangko and may utang ka kay bangko, anong gagawin mo? Babawasan mo na ang iyong liability kay bangko. So, yan ay nasa bangko na yung pera na yan. So, debit, note, payable bank, 980,000. Next, you record daw the interest payment. Di ba sabi 2% per month mayroong interest? O the 2% ng 1,700,000. Sir, bakit 1,700,000? Eh, di ba nabawasan na ng 980? Yes, nabawasan lang ng 980 on January 31. Pero yung period from January 1 to January 31, 1,700,000 pa rin ang balanse mo. Kaya, ang interest expense mo dyan ay 1,700,000 times 2%. Hindi naman pwede na nagbayad ka ngayon, wala ka ng interest for the entire January. So, 2% ka ng 1,700,000. So, itong 980 na to, ibabawas mo to on the next computation of the unpaid loan balance. Okay, let's proceed with February 28. Under February 28, ang sinasabi, ang transaction on February 28, 31 ang nakalagay pala dito. So, i-change na lang siguro natin ito because wala namang 31 ang February. The company received notice from the bank that 900,000 of assigned account were collected. So, nakapag-collecta na naman si bank ng 900,000, tapos dinotify ka niya ulit. Final settlement was made by the bank for the excess collection and uncollectible accounts assigned of 100,000. So, sinettle na ni bank kasi parang mayroong excess collection dito. Okay, and uncollectible accounts assigned 100,000. Okay, kasi 'di ba 2 million ang accounts receivable assigned. So kanina may nagbayad 1 million, ngayon 900,000. So merong hindi na kolekta ng 100,000. So anong gagawin diyan? Later discuss natin. Then merong excess collection daw. Okay, let's look at paano ba i-compute 'yan. And how do we recognize the journal entry for that? Okay, February 28, to record collection, excess collection, and interest expense. Magkano ang nakolekta ni bangko? 900,000. Ni-notify ka niya, so ano gagawin mo? Bawasan mo ang iyong accounts receivable assigned, 900,000. So, ito yun. Okay, dahil nagbayad na kay bangko, babawasan mo na ang iyong utang kay bangko dahil may nagbayad na kay bank. Note payable bank, magkano ang ibabay? Kanina, di ba, ang balance is 1,700,000. Eh, nagbayad na on January 31 ng 980. Ito yon, nabawasan ng 980. So, ang natira na lang na note payable mo, 720. So, is-settle na natin yon, 720. Next, interest expense. Magkano ang interest expense mo? Ang natira na lang ay 720. That is 1,700,000 minus 980 times 2%. This is 2%. So, 14,400. So, magkano na lang ang matatanggap mo? 165,600. So, itong 165,600 na to, this is your excess collection ito ni bangko. So, bibigyan ka ni bank ng 165,600 dahil sobra na doon sa utang mo. Okay. Since 1 million ang kaninang binayaran, tapos 900,000 ngayon, 2 million ang iyong inassigned, dahil na-settle na yung assignment between the financial entity or the bank and you, the entity, anong gagawin? It is proper to eliminate the assigned account and to revert it to your accounts receivable account. So, to record the uncollected assigned account, you have to debit accounts receivable and then credit accounts receivable assigned. Kasi, tapos na yung assignment of accounts receivable mo kay bank. So, dapat i-set up mo siya uli as your accounts receivable. Okay, so I think that ends the discussion on notification basis. So, what if naman, non-notification basis? So, same scenario, itong, let us just illustrate. Under the non-notification basis, ang pagbabayad ay sa entity pa rin. Kasi, hindi naman aware ang mga accounts receivable holders na sila ay magbabayad sa na na-assign na ang kanilang accounts receivable. How do you recognize? Same lang. Debit accounts receivable assigned 2 million, credit accounts receivable 2 million. When you record the loan, you debit cash 1,600,000, service charge 100,000, note payable 1,700,000. On January 6, to record the sales return and allowances. So ano ba sinasabi under the sales returns and allowances on January 6? Ang sabi, issued credit memo to a customer whose account was assigned for return of damaged merchandise amounting to 50,000. So di ba meron kang accounts receivable na inassign. Ngayon, yung accounts receivable na yon ay hindi mo yan makokolekta dahil ni-return pala ni customer, nag-return si customer, excuse me, nag-return si customers ng binenta mo sa kanya. So, anong gagawin mo? It is proper to eliminate the accounts receivable assigned. So, debit sales return, credit accounts receivable assigned 50,000. Next, on January 15, the company collected 1 million of the assigned account less 2% discount. Okay. Kanina, si bank ang nagko-kolekta sa mga ganyang items. Pero dahil ito ay non-notification basis, ikaw ang magko-kolekta. You debit cash, 980, credit sales discount, 20, credit accounts receivable, assigned 1 million. Okay, next, on January 31, ang sabi, the company remitted the collection of the assigned account to the bank plus the interest payment for 1 month. O, di ba kanina, si bank, ninonotify ka na may nagbayad na sa akin. Pero ngayon, dahil ikaw ang nangongolekta, i-remit mo yun kay bangko. So, paano mo siya i-remit? Magkano ba ang nakolekta mo? Ang nakolekta mo ay 980,000. So, bawasan mo ang iyong note payable ng 980,000. Yan ang i-remit mo. Plus, yung interest daw. 1,700,000 times 2%. Kasi yun pa yung balance ng iyong note payable, 34,000. So, magkano i-remit mo? Ang total, 1,014,000 for the collection and the interest. Next, on February 2, ang sabi dito, the company determined that 20,000 of the assigned account is uncollectible or worthless. So, di ba nag-assign ka ng accounts receivable? Pero sabi, based on evaluation ay, yun daw ay worthless na. So, how do you recognize the write-off? You debit allowance for doubtful accounts and then you credit accounts receivable assigned 20,000. So, ini-eliminate mo na yung accounts receivable assigned mo for that amount na i-write off. Next, February 22. Collected 900,000 of the assigned account o debit cash ka lang, credit accounts receivable assigned 900,000. Next, February 28, i-remit mo na yung amount due for the loan balance plus the monthly interest. So, magkano yung loan balance, i-remit mo na daw. Magkano ba ang loan balance? To record the remittance of the collection, di ba 1,700,000 minus 980, so ang balance na lang is 720. So debit note payable bank 720. Ang yung interest expense is 720,000 times 2%. 14,400. So magkano i-limit mo? 734,400. Okay. Next, to transfer the remaining balance of accounts receivable assigned to account receivable. Accounts receivable. Okay. Dahil mayroong hindi pa nakakollect, it is proper dahil tapos na yung assignment to revert back to transfer the account receivable assigned account to your original account receivable account. So 10,000 na lang yan because 2 million minus 1,900,000 minus 20 minus 50 minus 20,000. Sir, ano ba yung minus mo na minus 50 minus 20? Minus 50 is because of the sales return. Minus 20 is because of the for the doubtful accounts. Okay. Okay, now let's move to factoring. The factoring of accounts receivable is a form of finance receivable wherein an entity sells its accounts receivable to the bank. So the difference between kanina, diniscuss natin yung pledging, assignment, at now, nandito na tayo sa factoring. Itong factoring, this is essentially a sale. Binibenta mo na yung accounts receivable mo. Kanina, ina-assign mo pa lang, pine-pledge mo pa lang, pero ngayon, ito ay binebenta mo na. Binebenta mo na yung accounts receivable mo sa isang factor. Ang tinatawag na yung mga factor ay yung mga bank or financial entity on a without recourse notification basis. Ano ibig sabihin ng notification basis? Because the accounts receivable holders are notified of the factoring without recourse. Ang ibig sabihin ng without recourse na yan ay, for example, si bangko ay, for example, yung receivable account na ibinenta mo sa kanila ay hindi nagbayad kay bangko, ano ang, si bangko ba pwede ba siyang bumalik sa'yo bilang entity at sa'yo kolektahin yung hindi niya nakolekta doon sa mga mga binenta mong accounts receivable? The answer is no, because it is in a without recourse. Hindi na pwedeng ibalik yung, hindi na pwedeng yung hindi mabayaran ng mga naibenta ay sisingilin sa'yo. So that is the logic of the factoring, yung without recourse and notification basis, because essentially tina-transfer na yung ownership. Kaya ang sabi dito, the difference of factoring and assigning is the ownership of the accounts receivable. In assignment of account, the entity of the borrower returns ownership of the receivable, while sa factoring ay yung ownership is actually transferred to the factor or to the bank. So there are two types of factoring. Yung ordinary sale, yung casual factoring, which is an ordinary sale of an asset, at yung factoring as a continuing agreement. Next, essentially, itong casual factoring, this is just an ordinary sale of an asset. So parang nagbenta ka lang ng receivable mo. So how do you recognize yung pag nagbenta ka ng receivable? Ganyan lang ang journal entry on recording the financial assets. You just have to compute for the book value of your receivable. Paano ba mag-compute ng book value ng receivable? Edi yung accounts receivable balance minus the allowance for doubtful accounts is your book value of your receivables compared to the proceeds kung magkano mo siya ibebenta. So, there are cases na merong loss or gain on the factoring kasi pwede na yung proceeds ng sale on factoring is greater than the carrying amount, greater than the book value of the receivables, or pwede rin that the proceeds is less than the book value of your accounts receivable. So nagkakaroon ng gain on factoring at loss on factoring. For this entry, inassume na walang gain or loss. So kapag walang gain or loss, you just have to uh, credit your accounts receivable kung magkano yung accounts receivable mo na nasa yung financial statements na ibinenta mo, and then you have to close out your allowance for doubtful accounts by debiting it kung magkano yung allowance for doubtful accounts, and then you have to debit your cash, yung proceeds kung magkano mo siya ibinenta. So this journal entry assumes na the net proceeds and the book value is equal. So paano kapag mayroong difference between the carrying amount and the book value and the proceeds of the loan of the factoring, I mean, so magre-recognize ka lang ng gain or loss on factoring. So kapag may loss, edi i-debit mo loss on factoring. Kapag may gain, you credit gain on factoring. So yun ang ginagamit na account title, loss on factoring and gain on factoring. Okay, next. Paano naman yung factoring as a continuing agreement? So kapag continuing agreement naman, ang sinasabi lang dito ay in this agreement, before the shipment of the goods, the seller, the entity requests the credit approval to the factor. If the request is approved, the account is sold to the factor the time after the shipment of the goods. The factor may compensate the commission for the factoring services. He may also withhold an account for security in case of sales return and allowances. The amount withheld is called factors holdback. So kaya sinasabing continuing agreement because upon hindi lang siya basta simpleng ibinenta mo siya because there are conditions after the sale na meron pa ring effect on the records of the one of the entity selling the accounts receivable. So let us look at how it is done. Sabi dito, the amount withheld, the factors holdback is recognized as receivable from factor classified as a current asset. Kasi ang sabi dito, he may also withhold an amount for security in case of sales returns or allowances. So this is a difference. Kasi merong provision on the sales return. Bakit paano? Kasi kapag yung binentang accounts receivable ay merong mga defect doon sa mga previous, tas may mga nagsusoling customers. Ano ang provision natin doon? Under the factoring as a continuing agreement, pwedeng gamitin yon as a holdback. Kumbaga, meron pa ring security naman yung pinagbentahan mo. So let us illustrate. Love company factored accounts receivable amounting to 400,000 to a finance entity with a term 2, 10, and 30. The factor charge a 5% commission, may 5% commission, then meron siyang 10% factors holdback. Itong accounts receivable to cover the sales return and allowances. So how do we recognize it? The journal entry. How do we recognize it? Since ikaw ay nag-factor ng accounts receivable, anong gagawin mo sa accounts receivable mo? You debit accounts receivable. You credit accounts receivable 400,000. So, ito yun. Dinebit mo ang iyong accounts receivable at 400,000. Kinredit mo ang iyong accounts receivable at 400,000. Dahil binawasan. Dahil yan ay ibinenta mo na. Binenta mo na under a factoring as a continuing agreement. Kasi merong factors holdback na involved. Okay, isa-isahin natin ito. Magmula dito ang sabi dito, there is withheld. Nagwi-withheld daw ng 10% yung pinagbentahan mo ng receivable para doon sa mga sales return kasi baka mamaya may mga nagsusole ng mga dati mong ibinenta. So, para meron naman siyang security. So, this is treated as an account title debit receivable from factor. So, receivable from factor yan on the books of ikaw yung nagbenta, ito yung journal entry mo, di ba? So, meron kang receivable. This is a receivable account. Kasi paano kapag wala namang nagsole, o di, kukunin mo yan kay factor o doon sa pinagbentahan mo. So, 400,000 times 10% is 40,000. So, ito, eventually, kung wala namang magsusoli dyan, ay matatanggap mo yan kay factor o doon sa bank. Next, may 5% commission daw. So, 400,000 times 5% is 20,000 commission. Next, kung may the sales discount is 400,000 times 2%, that is 8,000. So, magkano na lang ang marireceive mong cash? 332,000. Okay, let us look at the foregoing notes. If there is a sales return of 25,000, the entry would be, paano, halimbawa, merong nagsoli na nga doon sa pinagbentahan mo. So, ito lang ang entry na gagawin mo. Ikaw ito yung entry na gagawin mo. You debit sales return and allowance 25,000. You credit sales discount na 500, that is 25,000 times 2% dahil part yan ng discount niya kanina. So, bawasan mo 25,000 times 2%. Receivable from factor, bawasan mo ang iyong receivable from factor ng 24,500. Kasi hindi mo na yan marireceive kay factor kasi nga may nagsole. What if after nung transaction na yun, lahat ng receivable ay nakolekta na without further sales return, the entry would be, you just have to debit. Halimbawa, ang receivable from factor mo kanina ay 40,000. Nabawasan ng 24,500 kasi may nagsoli nga. Nabawasan pa yun ng sales discount na 500. E paano kapag wala nang nagsoli after a certain period? O di makukuha mo na yon kay factor. So, pag nakuha mo yan kay factor and it will be collected, you debit cash, 15,500, that is 40,000 minus 24,500 na deduction kanina, and then eliminate mo yung receivable account mo from factor na 15,500. So that is the essence of the factoring, assignment of receivable, and the pledging of accounts receivable. And for the next topic, we will be discussing the discounting on notes receivable. So I think that ends the discussion on receivable financing for pledge, assignment, and factoring. Thank you.